It was almost exactly 30 years ago that I began a tradition and a habit that whenever there are 5 Sundays in a month, I take liberties with that Sunday and experiment in worship. And so today is the 5th Sunday of July, and so it's a 5th Sunday. No two of them are alike, so it's hard to explain what they are, except that they are experimental. Sometimes I choose a theme to focus on, sometimes it's an aspect of church life. Sometimes they work really well, and sometimes, quite frankly, they have failed. But always, my goal has been to enhance our regular worship services by experimenting a little bit on the 5th Sunday. Today's 5th Sunday involves an adventure in which we're going to ask you to help finish the story. We'll be presenting 4 different things that we are working on for the future of our church. They're not competing visions, however. They are complementary visions that are part of the unfinished story of West Heights. In that sense, they're a lot like the murals that we have downstairs. I don't know if you've been downstairs. We got a picture of one of the murals. It's an unfinished mural where there's different panels, and like the mural, we know when it began, but we really don't know how and when it's going to end. And that's kind of the story of West Heights. We know when it began, but we don't know what the future will look like. If you look at the insert that was in the bulletin or the card that was given to you with your bulletin, you'll see 4 visions that are named for you there. At the end of our service, we're going to invite you to learn more about one of those 4 visions. We'll give you directions at that time. And as you learn more about that, take notes, use that card. And afterwards, we're going to have a potluck where you're welcome to come and gather and talk and share what you learned with people who chose a different vision to learn about. Between now and then, we encourage you to make notes, to pose questions, and to reflect with us on how God is preparing us and leading us into a future that is exciting. If you're a visitor with us today, there are 2 things I need to tell you. One is, this isn't what we usually do on a Sunday morning. It's an experiment. For a regular service, you have to come back another week. At the same time, we hope you'll participate in this service and invest yourself as best you can. Is there anything else I need to say about the card? I don't think so. We're going to sing a song now, and the acolytes, I think you just need to come forward now while we're getting ready to sing. It's number 3152 in worship and song. Ellen has written a 4th stanza. Between each of the stanzas, I'm going to give you an introduction to each of the 4 visions. So let's sing together. Welcome. Talking in between every verse. We intended for you to be seated. I know some people don't know how to sing without standing. That's up to you. In September, we will begin offering a 3rd option for worship here at West Heights. In addition to our 8:15 and 10:30 worship services, we will offer an informal service at 10 o'clock, a service we're calling Cafe Chapel. It will take place in the fellowship hall. Our plan is to run a 10-week experiment with this service to see what we can learn. The first service will be right after Labor Day. We'll complete the experiment before Thanksgiving, at which time we will reevaluate figure out what we've learned, and see what we can do next. One of the people who helped us put that vision together will be telling the story of Cafe Chapel in Fellowship Hall for those who want to take that adventure this morning. For many years, we've had a children's ministry program on Wednesday evenings that met the needs of our children. This year, we are redesigning the program to attract children who are not a part of our congregation. It will begin with an intentionally child-friendly meal at no cost to the children. It will go on to include games, music, Bible stories, and crafts. Those who want to learn more about Club 252, you go downstairs in the hall, downstairs where the Children's Ministry Board will tell you how they came up with this idea and why they are excited about this adventure for West Heights. For over 20 years, there has been a space set aside for a fine arts center in the basement underneath the church offices. This is what it currently looks like. We are hoping to begin construction in the near future as we bring that dream to fruition. But times have changed since the original plans were drawn. New plans were made that have been modified to meet a new vision. The people involved in creating that new vision would love for you to see that space and to hear the story. You can find out more when you choose the Fine Arts Adventure this morning. Over the past 3 weeks, I preached a series of sermons addressing the various doorways of our church. I talked about how some people want to hold those doors open and some people want to shut them. At West Heights, our belief and our practice has been to keep them as open as possible. At the same time, we know there are people outside the church who don't always see the openness we intend to show. So we want to explore ways to be more hospitable. Those who want to help us create that possibility are invited to choose the welcome adventure this morning.
God speaks to us in so many ways. Let's hear these words that God spoke to us and speaks to us through the prophet Joel. I will pour out my spirit upon everyone. Your sons and your daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions. And I'd say your young women will see visions. Your old women will see visions. Bottom line, God's Spirit won't be limited. When God breathed over the waters at the beginning of creation, God set in motion a story of love that would never be finished and never be limited. The prophet's words express this uncontainable nature of God's creative spirit at work in the world. I will pour out my spirit on everyone, young and old. We are here this morning to dream together, to cast visions together, to imagine what can be. How many of you are familiar with books from this series? Raise your hand if you're a Gen Xer who ordered from Scholastic Book Orders. So I can see that not all of us are familiar with Choose Your Own Adventure, but you'll all get the idea because you've all gone here. For those of you who don't know, this kind of book invites the reader to create a different story every time the book is read. A couple pages into the book, the creator of the story, you, faces 2 or 3 options, and each of those options leads to more options, and then to one of many endings. The number of endings isn't set, and they may vary from as many as 44 to as few as 8. As we enter now through these words and then in the song to follow, a time for sharing our tithes and offerings, we are consciously, I invite you to consciously enter this adventure with me and start creating this story together with one another. As we create the next chapters of West Heights life, we're going to hear the words to the song, This Is Me, from The Greatest Showman. Let's see another show of hands. How many people know This Is Me? I bet the number's a lot higher. Yeah. So as we listen to the words of this fabulous story, I think they remind us of one of the famous, to me, bylines of West Heights, which we hear at our preschool and which we've heard through the congregation on Sunday mornings and other times. Each person is a unique and unrepeatable gift. So the people here, you, creating these stories together this morning, each one of you is unique, unrepeatable. You have your own contributions to bring. This morning you will be listeners, but you'll also be collaborators because you've got those sheets to take with you, and you've got your hearts and your minds, and we'll keep thinking on these things together as we go from this place. Some of the themes that are lifted up in This Is Me have to do with safety. We want people here, each unique and unrepeatable gift, to feel safe to be who you are. We want you to feel like you can stay and not run away or hide in shame, as the words of the song say. A last word about creating the story together. It's easy to talk about being creative, putting your heart into something, your mind into something, but I don't have to tell you, I don't think, that it also takes a lot of work It takes being willing to be uncomfortable. It means that if you're like me, maybe you'll say something you wish you could change or you could have heard differently. It means making mistakes together. Dreaming and visioning together means doing nitty-gritty work, getting our hands dirty, agreeing to struggle together. The creative process takes time and work and a high tolerance for discomfort, and that's okay. That's what we want for this morning. May the Spirit that moved over the waters at the beginning of creation and that invites young and old to dream dreams and see visions, invite you to have a great adventure this morning. So as we share now our gifts of money, I also invite you to offer yourself, and maybe as you pass the plate, maybe as you hear the words, to take them very much to heart as you say, perhaps inside, this is me. This is what I bring this morning. This is who I am. We are so glad you are all here.
I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me, look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. Oh, oh, Another round of bullets hits my skin. Well, fire away, 'cause today I won't let that shame sink in. We are bursting through the barricades and reaching for the sun. Warriors, yeah, that's what we become. I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna stand a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised,
All right. Are you ready to choose your own adventure? All right. So, if you would like to choose the adventure of learning about Cafe Chapel, what you will want to do is exit the sanctuary through the center doors or the side doors and go down the education wing or to the fellowship hall. So just right out the sanctuary doors here. If you would like to choose the adventure of the Fine Arts Center, you'll want to go out through Gallery West, through the courtyard, go through the B doors, those white doors right outside the courtyard, and either take the elevator, the new elevator to your left, or the stairwell to go down to the unfinished basement, which is over that way. Then, if you want to take the Club 252 adventure, go straight down the narthex steps or take the elevator, and you will be going down to the Sunday school hallway, which will be underneath Gallery West here. And if you want to choose the safe space adventure, then you have an easy option. You can stay right here. But if you're staying here in the sanctuary, I invite you to move a little closer to the front. Okay. Choose your adventure. Create the story.